What's cracking, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. New video. So today we're going to talk about a CDC policy that almost led to some very serious bloodshed, right? So when I entered the CDC, if there was a sticking on the yard, somebody got whacked, what they would normally do is, especially when I first went in New Folsom, they would, wherever the area was, they'd grab like 10 or 11 dudes from the vicinity, take them down to the cages, right? Resume the yard, and then they would ask them, hey, what'd you see? I didn't see nothing. All right, go back. What'd you see? And that was it. As long as they got the victim and the shooters, they would resume yard. No problem, right? Well, in the 2000s, the CDC came up with this shit called the interview process, right? So if there was a sticking on the yard, they would slam the group down that was involved, and then they would pull you out to interview you. What did you see, right? And so for the raza from Southern California, they were not allowed to interview. We couldn't come out. So we bullied them, okay? And it was a 2-week process, too. After 2 weeks, they were going to come, and then once the interviews were over, they let you up. And so we bullied them to where you guys want interviews, you got to come to our cell doors. That way everybody could hear, right? So they did. But that was a decision that all the yard cops made. So they came to the cell doors, and what'd you see? I didn't see nothing. I wasn't even on the yard that day. All right, cool. You're Sally. Hey, I don't know. I wasn't there. Boom. And then they'd resume yard. Somehow the administration found out. And they were like, the Southerners don't run the administration. Why does that thing always pop up now? The Southerners do not run this administration, this facility, this institution. They have to be pulled out of their cells, right? So then the next pegada that happened, next sticking, the cops told us, hey, you guys got to come out of the cell. We said, well, open the door. They opened the door. We stepped out onto the tier in front of our door. Did it again. Somehow the administration found out. They said, nope. Next time, they got to go down to the rotunda where the offices are, right? You guys got to remember, prison is always cat and mouse. Cat and mouse, They make a move, there's a reaction. That's just the way it is. So the next pegada happens, they say, you guys got to come down to the office. So vatos would go with their cellies. The ones that couldn't go is if they didn't have a cellie. But so we would both go in the office together. Same thing, so we could hear everything, right? And the administration didn't like that because they kept saying that, how are you going to let the convicts dictate what goes on? So the next pegada, you guys have to go in separate offices. So there's a counselor's office in the rotunda, and then across from it is the cop's office, right? The CO station. So what we did is we stood in the middle of the rotunda and had them stand at the door. And they asked their question. Nah, we don't know nothing. Okay, so now an incident occurs. Now this one is a racial. It was the Southerners hit a white dude, right, for pinching a clavo, for pinching into some dope that he brought in for somebody. Me. I told the story before. And we had a homie got at me and said, hey, Holmes, I think this vato's pinching clavos. I think he pinched my last one. I want to find out, I said, yeah, you want to do it that way? Yeah, I'll send some shit to him. So I had my homeboy drive from Santa Barbara all the way to Marysville to drop something off, right? And sure enough, the guy clipped it, and the homie was like, that's all I wanted to know. I'm going to get him. Okay, boom. So they whack him, right? Now, because this wasn't in-house, the cops were more serious, allegedly, right? Or the administration, because the COs don't care. For the most part, they do not care. It's the administration that plays the games. So this time around, they're like, look, you guys have to come out individually and interview. And that was a no-go. So word went to all the buildings. No interviews, period. Nobody comes out for nothing. So what I did is I went through the Title 15, which are the rules and regulations of the Department of Corrections, right? Within the Title 15 and the DOM, there's mandatory language. You know, if you know, and people that know anything about law, there's mandatory language where there's no wiggle room with it, right? The CDC is not allowed to enact any policy, especially underground policy they can't enact, period. But they're not allowed to enact any policy that jeopardizes those who they are housing. Okay. So I immediately filed paperwork, and with the intention to get into court with it and try to wipe out the whole interview process for all groups. We were the ones that were being subjected to this, so we were going to initiate it. We had to, right? And my thing was this: the interview process was a snitch process. It was an underground snitch policy that was enacted by the CDC. And so my argument was this, because they tried to at first say, no, it's not, you know, this. And I said, yes, it was. So my argument was this: an incident can occur on January 1st, for an example, right? So on January 1st, somebody gets whacked. Doesn't matter if they die or not. Somebody gets whacked on January 1st. A Southerner arrives to that facility on January 15th. Or let's just say 10th. Better. Let's just say he arrives on January 10th. He's on lockdown like those that were there, even though he wasn't there. And he's going to be questioned about an incident that he wasn't even in the facility to see or to hear about. So therefore, the interview process was not about the incidents that occur. It's about, what do you know? And by pulling people out. So that was my whole argument. You're pulling people out and you're making them look like snitches. You're asking them about stuff they know nothing about. And it was a good argument. I had all my paperwork going. Unfortunately, there was a weak link in the chain. There was an individual there. I'm not going to say his name. I really want to. I'm not going to say his name. And this individual, let me break it down to you guys. This individual used to play basketball in the yard. He was growing his hair out. The only Southerner on the yard that was growing his hair out, right? He had zero experience in prison politics. He used to wear these little ass shorts to play basketball, and half shirts. And he would take his chain off and he would put it around his forehead to hold his hair. I mean, it was a cold look, right? But the thing was, is he was related through blood to 3 different legends. 2 of them were no longer in good standings or alive, either or, right? 1 was. And so this individual felt as if that relationship meant anything to others who had their own relationships with legends, right? So he was a loose cannon. Again, had zero political experience. This dude was a tadpole fucking around with some sharks, right? So what this individual did, because of his weak mind, he couldn't take the lockdown. We had already been locked down about, if not 3 months yet, very close to it. And myself and 2 other people had the position of authority there. And we were under the impression that after 90 days, they were going to have to let us up, right? Apparently, we were wrong. So I had the paperwork in motion, and we were thinking that 90 days, they're going to let us up. 90 days, they don't let us up. So old dummy decides to write to his family member. and tell whatever story he told, right? And then he decided he was going to form a mesa. He was going to establish his leadership. I'm in C section in 3 building. He's in A section. So the first person he sends a huila to is his little fucking friend, another dummy, 0 experience. He tells him to interview him. So the 2 of them interview. They notify the Juras, hey, we want to interview him. They interview him. Then he shoots a huila into B section to one of my rivals. Those of you that know, in the political realm, you are going to have political adversaries, even though you run with the same car. Now, this rival of mine, we knew each other from the Bay. He was an extremely, extremely treacherous individual. He usually got people crossed up a lot, including those who were supposedly his friends, right? So old dummy gets at him. That vato knew. He wants to try to overthrow me, but this ain't the right guy to link his little trailer to. So he immediately shoots me the huila in order to try to garner favor, like, hey, Holmes, I really got your back. No, you don't. We both know. So he shoots me the huila, and this vato's saying, like, hey, I already got this vato, but I want you on the team, this and that. So I said, all right, gracias. So I sent it to the other 2, and we laughed about it. We're like, hey, this vato's stupid. He's silly. The vato actually comes to my cell one day. This is all happening within a few days. Once he interviewed, boom, boom, boom. He's running around the buildings, and he's getting his crew to interview, right? And so finally he comes to my cell. And this is, again, complete lack of experience. He hands me like 3 letters from a legend, his uncle. And in it, I was able to see a side of that individual, that man, that I'm sure nobody wants. He doesn't want anybody to see. The things that he didn't like about his own family members. Certain personal things. And this dummy sharing all this with me. And I told him, I read the letter and I said, okay, gracias. I said, now what's your plan? I said, because we're going to be off lockdown soon. I said, obviously you do not know what's going on and you don't know what you're doing. But when we come out, I said, this is what I'm going to do. This is what I'll do for you. I said, is this the only person you can get at? Because me and the other 2 homies, we're going to get at everyone we can get at. And we're going to send it all up there. We're going to let you do whatever. You can have your little shadow government. I said, you can have your little shadow government. I said, we're going to send everything up there. We're going to let the legends decide what happens. I said, then they'll let you know what time it is. He's like, nah, what? The vato was bonkers, eh? And word came back down to me. While we have to respect that relationship, it doesn't trump ours. Get him if you want him. Or wait it out and let's let everybody talk. I said, I'll wait it out. But we were also told, interview. Everybody get on the yard ASAP. We get out to the yard, man. And the few people that knew were like, holy shit, Holmes, when's he gonna die? And we're like, nah, let it play out. And he would come around and hey, Holmes, just so you guys know, we're like, listen, Holmes, you really have no say so here. We're tolerating you for now. Don't force our hand, serio. So he had his little, his little shadow government of nobody had been anywhere. And here we are. It was the wildest shit ever. The vato was also Muslim. So one day he's in the chapel, Muslim services, right? And he's standing at the window. He was kind of a darker homie, right? I look over and I tell my camarada, he got his letter, fool. Look at him. He was pale. This vato had been going around saying, oh, these vatos have been fucking up. I stripped them. Everything was coming to us. And we were just laughing. So sure enough, they let out Muslim services. There he is, still in the window. Still looking. Equipment recall. When they say equipment recall in the yard, that means there's 5 minutes left of yard. Guess who comes out of the chapel all of a sudden? He comes over, head down. Head down. Hey, what's up, homie? I said, you got your letter? He said, yeah. I said, you don't got shit on this yard, do you? He goes, you were right. But I just wanted to ask you something. I said, what? He said, could I have a seat on your mess? I was it. Can I have a seat on your mess? I said, hey, Holmes, check this out. When do you go home? He goes, 9 months. I said, go home and don't ever come back to prison or we're going to kill you. That's how it is. This is just a little glimpse about how the CDC, through their policies, can break a weak-minded individual. He was very lucky that I was a patient dude. I didn't want the headache of pissing off his deal, right? I didn't want, it was justified. It would have been cleared, but it's still an enemy you make. And those type of enemies you never want to make, right? Had it been up to the other two homies, they'd have chopped him up. They would have downed him immediately. And then we would have had to deal with some stuff, and it's just a headache. So we but anyways, there you guys go. There's a glimpse, another small glimpse into how things can be. Why you need to keep your ass out of the streets, out of criminality, and out of prison. It's a very cutthroat world. See, we could have been scandalous and immediately knocked down all of his crew and left him standing around waiting because he wouldn't have done shit. He had never done a pegada in his life, probably still hasn't done shit. But we decided, you know what? It's a group of fucking dummies. But dummies can be very dangerous. Had they ran into a weaker crew, they could have destroyed that yard, got a lot of people hurt, and it would have been all bad. So there you go. It's another new video for you guys. I told you guys the next 3 weeks, I'm hoping I'll do something every day. That's the plan, the next 3 weeks, and then we'll see after that. But I will be busy. Thank you guys for being here. Don't forget to check your notifications. Make sure they're on all, because when I don't do videos, they move it from all to personalized and you won't get your notifications. With that said, everybody, please be safe, be smart, and tell the ones you love that you love them. I'm out.